Okay. All right. So the word we're going to have for today is prayer. So most of us, it's a pretty common concept for most of us, because most of us pray, correct? We should be, at least. Okay, so how many of us understand actually what prayer is, though? What is prayer?
It is
Talking to the Most High.
Talking to the Most High. What are we trying to, do we know what we're trying to communicate to the Most High?
Right.
Anybody have an idea?
His will back to him.
His will back to him. Okay, I've been on this kick lately, and I know you've heard me say it, so you'll hear me say it again. When Yah does things, it's not for him, it's for us. Now, when he does things in his redemptive work, it's always for him. It's for his name's sake. But there are certain things that the Most High has us to do that he doesn't need us to do for him. Yah doesn't need your prayers. This is not like those other deities who need you to put down little fruits and oranges and things and pray to them to maintain their deity status, okay? He's Yah and all by himself, whether you pray, whether you do anything or not. But this will be 4 parts, so these will all be relatively short. We'll do it in 4 parts, because prayer has really 4 components. Today we're going to deal with prayer as judgment, okay? And I'll put it in terms that we can all understand, so we get an agreement on this, because it's something that we have to do as a people, especially in captivity, that's necessary for redemption. We have to be on the same page on this. So most of us have been to court. Who's ever been to court? Okay, everybody. So in court, one of the things you do in court, right, is there's certain rules you have to follow in court to approach the judge. There's certain rules you have to follow to speak to the judge. There's a certain way you carry yourself in the courtroom when you are even just in the room, even if you're not a part of the case that's going on at the time. Everybody has protocols they have to follow in order to get what they want from the person who has the power to give it. Okay? So I'm going to give you this idea of prayer. Prayer in Hebrew is the word tefillah. You probably heard this. It's tet, pei, lamet, hey. Okay? Tefillah. You don't have to know all the breakdown of this. I'm going to give you a root word. The root word for this word is this word palam. Pei, lamet, lamet. This one we are going to do. So, pei, can somebody tell me what the pictograph for the pei is?
Mouth.
Mouth, words, speak. Lamet.
Staff.
Control toward.
Staff, control, toward, or to. And then we have it twice. The root word of prayer is to literally speak to the one in authority. Okay? So when you're praying, the first thing you need to understand is that you're speaking to someone in authority, and there's 2 lamets there, because not only do they have the shepherd staff, but they have the ability to do what the shepherd staff does, which is to control the circumstances. Okay? A story that came to mind when I was thinking about this, when we talk about this idea of approaching one in authority, is Esther. Remember Esther? Before she came before Xerxes, right? That's king. Ashurus, you might say in your Bible. She did something before she approached the father in prayer. I mean, her husband at the time, the king, in prayer. The same way that we're supposed to do something before we approach the Father in prayer. I don't think we ever taught that, because we were just taught, oh, you have a one-way shot at the throne, approach it freely, thanks to Christ. That's what we're told. But if the picture of approaching the throne isn't attached to the high priest who gets in the presence of the Father to pray and to petition for the camp, then the same thing is required of you. You should carry that as a privilege, but carry with the same reverence. Now that we don't need a man to then go before the throne, you should still reverence the ability to do so in the same way that he did. Right? Okay? So if you're going before the throne, there were some things that the priest had to do before he went. He cleansed himself. He prepared himself. You have to prepare yourself mentally before you pray. Sometimes we pray flippantly. Like you just pray the first thing that's on your head. It's like, if the judge granted the first thing that came out of your mouth It would be terrible. It would be terrible sometimes. Ooh, yeah, just kill him. You're like, no. Think about it first. So there was a preparation process before prayer. Just like Esther prepared herself before she went in before earthly king, how much more should we be preparing ourselves before we get ready to pray? We should be thinking about what we're praying about. We should be meditating and seeing, okay, is what I'm even going to ask in the Father's will? And then if I'm asking something, how do I ask for mercy while I'm asking it because I don't deserve it? Okay, so if prayer is judgment, what you're doing in a very basic sense is coming before the judge with a case and asking him to rule on it. So then you might want to have done something before you ask him to rule on it. You like first not have broken the law. You can't ask the judge, you can't even ask an earthly judge to rule in your favor if you have broken the law. You can ask for mercy, but you can't ask for him to rule justly because his just ruling will be whatever the penalty for that crime is. I was talking to Maury on the way here and I was sharing with him something that popped in my brain because a lot of people have this idea that if I do something for Yah, then I'm working for my quote-unquote salvation, right? But if you grew up in a quote-unquote black home, you worked for your freedom all the time. All the time. So the thing that popped in my head when I was looking at this is this idea that you don't want to do something before you approach Yah, but if you grew up in a black home, you had to do something before you asked to leave. You had literally a checklist. You'd be like, let me make sure I clean my room. Before I ask my mom, can I go somewhere? Earthly parent, right? You would even have your friends say, hey, I'm going to come over, I'm going to help you clean up. And then ask your mom, can we go, That's how we do, right? So if that's how we feel petitioning our earthly parent, should we not, before we pray, do a checklist and introspect and judge ourselves and see where we stand? And then when we see that we fall short, say, okay, I still need to petition the Father. I still need to be in agreement with him on what I need and what he has for me. But before I go, I need to first recognize that I've fallen short. So I already know the judgment is death, flat out. So then knowing the judgment is death, coming in a merciful position, okay? Back to that story of Esther, the law was if anybody approached the king without him calling them first, they were to be put to death. That was the law. And so what she did was took a chance on his mercy. But she didn't come in there like, excuse me, Haman, he trying to kill everybody. So that was not her attitude. She took a completely different approach, and her approach was the approach of humility. Humility and shamefacedness is what we see in that place, is something that we all need to think about before we approach the Father. I think we've been conditioned to approach him very laxed because of the blood. It's like, oh, I got this, I can just walk up in here. But I think we need to change our mindset, because if you're approaching him to speak to someone who literally does have the authority to move and change everything about your situation, you would approach that differently. If right now you knew a person and they are like, look, I'm answering anybody's phone calls who needs money to pay their house off, you would call and talk to that person and prepare to speak to them a lot differently than if it was somebody that was just like, hey, I got a gift card. So if you're talking to somebody who really has the authority and the ability to judge and overrule any case that has been placed against you, then you would want to do it in reverence. Okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Oh, you want me to spell tefillah in English? Okay. That's going to be tough because I don't know how.
I just put T-A-P-H-E-L.
Well, I was going to do like this. It's funny when I get ready to write it backwards. Yeah.
T-E.
Is it T-E?
P-I.
Did you have an eraser out there?
Tefillah.
P-I? P-H-I?
P-H-I-L-L-A.
I-L-L-A.
Tefillah. Okay, I wasn't that far. A-H.
What the heck is that?
Like that?
Tefillah.
And then this one is Palau.
Palau.
P-A-L-A-L.
Palau.
Yes.
Okay.
I could recently treat judges so nice if they had somebody like you sitting out there with a